Hello, everyone.
Hello. Welcome to another.
Uh-oh, Brooke's muted.
See ya.
Hello, everybody. Anthony and I are coming to you from the studio, so we're in the same room. If you're confused about what's happening, our internet went down. So backup plan. That being said, we are getting started here. If you are watching this live, we want to invite you to go ahead and join in, ask questions. That being said, we do have a lot of ground to cover today because we are covering the ICF Core Competencies. We've just had an update this week. So brand new, hot off the presses, ICF 2025 Core Competencies. We are going to be covering these, and these videos are going to be reused for our students. So we've got a lot to get through, and we have to keep to a specific time frame. So we're going to do this quickly. Where shall we begin?
Very briefly, what is a core competency?
It's the guideline that we follow to know really what's on our side of the fence as coaches versus what's on other business experiences, what's licensed, what we're not, what we are, how to behave. Guidelines.
Yeah, I would define it as what coaching is according to ICF are the core competencies.
Anytime I'm in class and I explain the core competencies, I say this separates a conversation from a coach, from a conversation with a friend, a therapist, a consultant, whatever have you.
Yep.
Now Anthony's muted.
Yeah, no, it's because we're using one, and he didn't warn me he was about to speak. So
You're muting yourself?
I'm muting myself between because we had a little echo issue. So what were you saying, Anthony? Go ahead.
I was saying it's your measuring stick as a coach, and it's how you evaluate yourself as a coach as well. Especially, during performance evaluations, we're using these markers to see, are you a competent coach? Are you coaching in the ICF mindset? Are you hitting these specific markers? And if you don't meet them, you don't go on to get an ICF credential. And if you do meet them, you can go on and take the ICF ACC exam so that you can become a credentialed coach. Okay, so
yes, I agree.
Oh,
okay. Did you guys see that little stress icon? Did anyone see that?
Oh yeah, that's my break, like my.
That was funny.
So the core competencies have also been updated. Wording has changed. They've also added a glossary of terms. This is completely new. They did not have a glossary of terms before, and you may be familiar with some of them from the Code of Ethics update. But that's the first thing we're going to be hitting today are these glossary of terms. Now, we're not going to go over every single glossary item, but we're going to go over the major ones, things that are important for you to keep in mind that will come up later in the core competencies 1 and 2 that we're going over today. So, Jerome, do you have those up to share?
Yes, I do. I'll be popping them down below for you guys as we go through each one.
Yeah, so he's going to, as we go through, he'll be able to pop them in. So, mind you, there's going to be more terms than what we are showing, you're going to discuss here. We have decided to just go ahead and point out the ones that maybe are different or important or aren't something that you might inherently know or something that we have already trained you in our courses. So that is how we are choosing which glossary items to go over. If you are following along, by the way, with this, with the ICF Core Competencies, you can find the glossary of terms at the very back or end of that Core Competency PDF. I just popped it in the chat for you guys if you need it. So where do we want to begin with glossary of terms?
I think the first one we should do is agreement.
Agreement.
It's a big chunky definition, and it's going to factor in every part of your coaching. So it is a formal document. It's not verbal. It's formal. Established between the ICF professional, that's me, and the client or sponsors that outline the terms, expectations, and conditions of their coaching relationship. It typically includes details such as the goals of the coaching, the duration and frequency of sessions, confidentiality policies, payment terms, cancellation policies, and the responsibilities of both the coach and the client. So this is all the stuff that brackets your entire coaching relationship, is the agreements, like the glue. And if you don't have a coaching agreement, you really don't have a coaching relationship. At that point, it's something that's informal. Maybe you're using coaching skills to facilitate a conversation, but from the ICF point of view, it's not really coaching without an agreement.
So this, I just want to clarify something quickly. We refer to things like the session contract or session agreement. And this is not to be confused with that. This is when we're talking in this space, referring in this core competency space specifically, we are talking about a written contract that is signed upon and agreed by all parties involved. That can be sponsor, coach, sponsee, client. All of these things fall under that umbrella, depending on the coaching situation. Anything to add to agreement, y'all?
Yes, to the point where because I've gotten this question in classes a lot too, even if you have a pro bono client, it is wise and recommended to still have a session agreement, because if you look at that little term in there as far as payment is concerned, whether you're getting paid or not, it is still a payment arrangement. So it shouldn't matter whether you're being paid $1, $10, $100, or $0. Still have a session agreement.
All right, moving forward to our next term, autonomy. We're going to jump past analogy, go to autonomy here. I'll read this one. We'll switch it up. Autonomy, the client's ability to make independent decisions and take actions based on their own values and beliefs. I'm going to turn it over to y'all to figure or let us know why this is important.
Because if you look at what coaching is foundationally, it's helping not inspire, but rather bring out the expertise in others, their genius, their life experiences, rather than forcing or suggesting or quagesting. I'm always wanting to say that too. Your clients are not coming to you because they're hopeless, jacked up, and out of touch with reality. In a lot of spaces, they have learned that their voices are not safe to be expressed. They've learned that the smartest person in the room every single time is going to shut them down and dishonor their autonomy. So as coaches, we are inviting them into a space where they discover for the first time or rediscover the fact that they have autonomy. And as coaches, we facilitate that space by asking those questions, by providing that silence for them to work their stuff out. So it's foundational to everything that we do as coaches.
I think sometimes new coaches will think their opinions really matter. And this is kind of solidifying the fact that while your opinion matters in your world, in your life, your client has to have their own opinion and have it matter in their life. They don't need yours. What's the next word where?
Alrighty, next up we have bias. Oh, and somebody popped. Oh well, Sam loves autonomy. I do too.
Yeah, I'll do it. All right, bias.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam. You can read that off for us.
Sweet. A difference in the perception, interpretation, or judgment shaped by internalized beliefs, values, preferences, and cultural assumptions that can result in an inclination for or against an idea, object, group, or individual.
So when we think of biases, we're working with our clients. They may have their own, but us as a coach need to check ours at the door. We are not coming in with any preconceived notions on anything in that sense. We're working with our clients and where they are and where they want to grow and process what's happening.
Even going deeper into that one, there's also a bias. Wouldn't even say it's for or against, but let's just keep it at a preconceived notion about coaching in general, especially for newer coaches. The bias is we as the coaches are there to help the clients. We as the coaches are there to give the answers and be the second coming of motivational figures that for legal purposes I will not say in this live. But nevertheless, we also have to check not only our biases for or against our clients, but our biases towards, I guess that's the best way to put that, coaching itself.
Yeah. Anybody want to add anything to that?
Well, I would just like to ask Sam what specifically you mean when you say check our bias about coaching itself. Like, can you give an example?
Absolutely. I can actually start with my first couple of years as a coach. This was pre-credentialed, pre-certified, Sam. Well, I had a certification, just wasn't ICF aligned. The bias that I had was that my clients, I wouldn't say hopeless, jacked up, and out of touch with reality, but I just felt like since I read more books, watched more videos, overcame more adversity, the audacity of me to even think that I had some mystical, magical answer. And the bias towards my client wasn't even that they were negative. It's just they didn't have what I had, or at least what I thought I had. And because of that, I didn't honor their autonomy. I let my positive bias toward my experience override the bias that I could have had, the positive bias I could have had towards them that would have led me to honor them.
Great example. Thank you.
Next up, we have coaching engagement. And there we go. The structured interaction between an ICF professional and the clients, the sponsors. The engagement encompasses the entire coaching process, including the initial assessment, goal setting, regular coaching sessions, progress tracking, and evaluation of outcomes. So that is every time you are engaging with your client. Pretty straightforward, I think, for sure. I think we can move through that pretty quickly. I want us to touch on this next one quickly, which is coaching philosophy. I don't think we have to delve too deeply into it, but I'm just briefly touching on it. It's the underlying theory of beliefs and principles that guide coaching practice and interactions with clients. The only reason I'm mentioning it is because we want to remember that we are speaking specifically about coaching, and coaching is a very specific thing, especially when it comes to ICF. And that is that is what this philosophy is. That is a reminder in that space.
I will also want to add as well, coaching philosophy in this instance, when I believe it shows up in the first 2 core competencies, or even competency number 3, I can't remember which at the moment, but it is your own personal coaching philosophy. You're not just parroting what the ICF is saying. It is explaining your coaching philosophy to the client as well, and your personal beliefs and principles as a coach.
Up next, I don't think we need to do context, but I feel like let's quickly touch on culture.
Okay.
So Jerome, if you could toss culture up there, that would be lovely.
Yeah, so I did not see that there was an entire other page.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
okay.
what I'm going to do is just share my screen with the document so we can have that.
Okay, that works.
That makes sense.
That works out great. So while he's doing that, I'll just sort of say culture, the shared values, beliefs, language, communication, norms, practices of a group that helps define them as a collective and which influence behavior and decision making. And I think we all have an idea of what culture is, but I think it's something that we need to consider when we are talking about, we can put that down for now, now that I've read it, but we'll bring it back up in between. And maybe we'll pick a different structure of us, see what happens. But the reason I mention that is because it can be something when we are in a coaching space it becomes easy for us to assume that everybody's life experience is similar or the same as our own. And this is why I said also context they kind of go hand in hand here. But we all have our own cultures that we are a part of. And those cultures might shape a very different experience for another human being. And so you cannot assume that one, you have a full understanding of somebody else's culture, and two, that somebody else's culture is automatically the same as yours.
Nor even if it is the same of yours, you cannot make any assumptions there, because there's also different belief systems that build into that and how they interpret what their culture is.
Yeah, even I put this in the chat. There's a reason that it's called the International and not the National Coaching Federation. And to Lisa's point, we can all experience our own culture, whether it's national, regional, state, municipal, in so many different ways. Same event, different experiences of them. So being mindful of how that shapes the collective whole of wherever you're at or whoever you are coaching or wherever they're at.
I'm going to fly us through the next few of these. Grounded will be our next one. Being stable and centered, often referring to the coach's ability to remain calm and focused during sessions. Bringing that up because it is only present because it is you, the coach, that needs to be grounded. Notice how they didn't say you have to ground the client doing anything. We're not attempting to ground our clients or get our clients grounded.
Ground yourself already. Come on.
You're grounded, mister.
But us as the coach, we need to come into the session grounded and be able to manage our own emotions within a session and remain calm.
So has anybody here gone into a coaching session, but something happened before your coaching session where, yes. Yeah. What, Sam? What, give us an overview of something happening where you had to ground yourself before you went into your coaching session?
I'm not going to give the specific details of it. All I'm going to tell you is that what I knew is that I needed to get out of my office and get out of my office right there and then. And thankfully, it was about 5 minutes before my coaching session began. It was around that buffer period that I typically have. But usually when it's like that, the main thing is get out of the workspace, because it's hard to get myself in a space of equilibrium, so to speak, whenever I'm in my work environment, and my temptation is always to just soldier through.
Yeah. Breathing,
So,
finding that reason to ground yourself is going to be really beneficial between coaching sessions, and especially if anything happened on the outside in your world that you need to provide space with. Okay, go ahead.
So I have decided for us to pivot, and we're going to go right into the core competency 1. Nice pivot, Sam. As we go into core competency 1, whenever we see these terms come up, or if there's any question around a term that maybe needs defining, Anthony's going to keep our glossary of terms up for us so that way we can refer back to the glossary of terms as they become relevant in these core competencies, just to keep us moving. Sound like a plan? Okay, so we're going to move into our core competencies, the meat and potatoes here. Beginning with A, which is our first, what do we call those little overarching umbrella, A foundation? Is there a formal name for those?
No, I'm not sure what you're asking for, because
well, you know how they break them up into like sections?
Sub.
There's like A is the 2 competency, 1 and 2, right?
Yeah. Those are the core competencies, and these
are 4. And wait, no, it's not. Hold on.
These are sub competencies.
So A, well, that would make it only 2 competencies, A and B. So I think that it is that it's like they break up the competencies into sections. Like this is section A, our foundation section.
We can call them
categories.
Just call them categories.
That was the word I was looking for. It was on the tip of my tongue. So our competencies falling in category A, which is foundation, are 1, 2, and that's it, just 1 and 2. So we're going to begin here with competency 1, demonstrates ethical practice. And I'll read it and then we'll dive in. And I'm going to read the major definition, and then we can go through the sub definitions, and as things come up, we can share. Demonstrates ethical practice. sounds like that might be important. I don't know if you guys think so, but to me, it sounds like it might be important. Maybe that's why it's under foundation. Definition: understands and consistently applies coaching ethics and standards of coaching. All very straightforward stuff so far, right? So our sub-competency 1.01 demonstrates personal integrity and honesty in interactions with clients, sponsors, and relevant stakeholders.
Tell the truth.
Yeah, it's like don't be have integrity.
Tell the truth. That's
tell the truth.
yeah.
Be honest, which is great. I mean, I think that that's very important. Well, I'll ask after we've gone through this a question. We'll come back to it if we have time. 102 is sensitive to clients' identity, environment, experiences, values, and beliefs.
So taking in their context and their culture, which are both, I believe, terms in the context and culture in the glossary of terms. You're taking those two things in for 1.02.
Yes, for sure. I have a question in this space though. I'm curious. I'm trying to think of an example that is a real life example. I'm just wondering, like, if you're in a space and you know that your client has a specific belief structure, belief system, and you have something in your coaching space that it might be insensitive to that culture. Do we as a coach want to, be aware of that, take that down, remove it, something like that, or do we keep it there? And until, what are the thoughts there?
There's a double-edged sword with that one. First of all, we have to take into account where exactly are we in the coaching engagement. Many things like that are going to reveal themselves in the initial consultation or the initial meeting. Now, it all depends on what exactly is behind me that's offensive to them. If it's, for example, my sunglasses, I don't really have the biggest emotional attachment to these. Well, that's actually not true. These are my vacation sunglasses. But I'm still going to take them down because there's nothing that is emblematic of my core values in here. On the other hand, if they're asking me to take down something that is more emblematic of not just my preferences or hobbies, but who I am as a person and how I live my life, then we're going to have a conversation around whether or not we're the right fit for each other. And going into demonstrating ethical practice, there is power in the ethical no versus the inauthentic yes, just because you want a client. Because not every client is for you and you're not for every client. So depends on what it is.
Going back to 1.01, we want to be honest, right? So sharing that, if that discussion were to come up, I would say as a coach, be honest with whatever your feelings want to come up, and be honest with maybe you're not a right match.
As well, sensitivity doesn't mean that you are catering towards your client. Yes. Sensitivity means you understand the impact that their identity, their environment, experience, values, and belief has, and the things around you in your whatever setting you're doing coaching could have on that, and making appropriate, smart choices to influence the coaching session, hopefully to the benefit of your client's goals. That doesn't mean you have to just blindly appeal to whatever client comes in, because your clients are going to be different all the time. It makes no sense to constantly be changing things up. Just to
redecorate. Nah, not so much.
But I mean, I'm
a bad person.
As somebody who has an alternative taste, a lot of times, I mean, my hands are tattooed. These can be offensive to people, right? This on my body can be offensive to people. And I have alternative taste. And so there's always a question I ask myself as I'm putting something up behind me. How do I feel about this being behind me? How will somebody who sees this feel? And does that matter to me? Is it something that is so important to me that I want it there? And this, it states who I am, and that's not going to change? Or is it, not that important? But something to consider for sure. All right, next one. I think this one's very straightforward. Uses language appropriate and respectful to clients, sponsors, and relevant stakeholders.
Some clients, they might curse like a sailor, and that's totally appropriate for the coaching session and meet them at that level. Other times, people want a more professional, more strict coaching session. So meet them where they're at, and maybe be a little bit even more respectful than the client is.
Their coaches have built their entire brand around cursing, which cracks me up. But Sam, you were going to say something.
Yeah. Question about that. Can we go back to just 1.03 for a second?
Yeah.
Just being okay, cool. So language appropriate, respectful to clients. Now, I have observed both in and out of coaching a tension with that from some practitioners, because the question then becomes, how am I supposed to be real if I can't say what I normally say? It's not a pick and choose type of thing. It's, you can honor yourself, honor the client, and honor the environment. If you're just thinking to yourself, oh, I got to honor myself by saying what's on my mind and saying it however, you're honoring one of the three, and you're unlikely to be in alignment with core competency number one. So for anyone out there who's feeling like, oh, like I can't be real, you can. You just have to think of both the short and long-reaching implications of what your realness is. And by the way, you're not a monolith. You can be real and adaptive. So don't worry about all that. I'm sorry, we got to move on.
Also, there's something to consider there. This is not your coaching session. This is your client's coaching session. And so when we're meeting with the client, we're meeting the client with who they are and how they are. Yes, being authentic with ourselves, but if my client uses swear words, I probably will throw one or two in there. I'm not going to catch up with them if they're a constant, S-bomb or F-bomb or whatever, right? But I'm not so prudish that I couldn't use something. However, on the flip side, we want to stay more professional, and probably less is best, if not at all.
All righty, 104, shall we? Abides by the ICF codes of ethics and upholds their core values. Now, if you haven't already read the core ethic or the core values and the ethics, we aren't going over them today, but we do have videos on them, and they're also listed on the ICF website. So always good to brush up on those too. This is being ethical, and ICF has really laid out what they consider ethical, and we have to abide by that if we are ICF coaches.
If we have any relationship with ICF, we all have to abide by these rules.
That is true. That's what relevant stakeholders, right, means. That means that if you have a receptionist in your coaching profession, or you have somebody who answers emails or answers phone calls for you, they have to be abiding by ICF's ethical or code of ethics and values when they are dealing with your clients and you are interacting with your clients. It needs to extend to anybody that you employ or contract as well. Good call out there. 105, and we do have the glossary definition of this for our confidentiality here, which is maintains confidentiality with client information per stakeholder agreements and pertinent laws.
Yeah, so we're encountering that glossary term again, which is confidentiality. The protection of any information obtained in or around the coaching relationship unless there is a legal reason or requirement, a threat of harm, or written consent to release is given by the client. Confidentiality is a big deal in the coaching sessions, and keeping confidentiality with the client and or the sponsor is part of the code of ethics. It's not a legally binding term, though. It is not the same kind of confidentiality that is protected by a therapist and their client as well. However, ICF considers this very important. They treat confidentiality breaches as ethical breaches, but you are not required in the case of a threat of harm or people doing illegal things. Those are not considered confidential.
You mean required to report?
Yeah, you're not required to report.
However, I would say that if you are an ethical human being, you should report. So when you read the ethics and things like that, I think you are still you are not legally bound to report, but I think you are still ethically bound to report.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There is a distinction there.
And on the subject of pertinent laws, look at the laws of your state, especially if you work with certain demographics, because while the ICF itself is not going to say you're a mandated reporter, for example, here in the state of Texas, if you work with children or the elderly, then in certain aspects there is that duty to report there, not only ethically but legally too, within particular professions. So be mindful of your state laws.
And not only that, if you're licensed in anything, that's working with kids, the therapy, or anything in that realm, your license will always take precedence over any coaching regulations, laws, all of that, especially in your states.
And I know that's scary. How do I find laws? How do I do all this? Well, you're going to draw up an agreement. And when you draw up that agreement, it's always good to have a lawyer look at the agreement. You may also be able to ask that lawyer, are there any pertinent laws I might want to know when I'm opening my coaching business, or things you think I should be aware of? You probably would have to pay for that, but worth it, so you know, without having to pull it from thin air. Of course, there's always ChatGPT and Gemini, but
do your
due diligence and ask a professional. All right, 106. We're almost done with core competency 1 here. Maintains the distinctions between coaching, consulting, psychotherapy, and other support professions.
So essentially, you're not any of those other support professions. You are a coach unless you have a relevant certificate, degree, credential from some other organizing body.
And I want to call something out, and I bet Sam will chime in on this. We look at maintains the distinctions between. What does that mean?
That means you keep coaching in coaching, therapy in therapy, consulting in consulting. Otherwise, what ends up happening, and crap, I don't have my visual aid with me, but just pretend these are hats for a moment. Gonna mess up my hair, but I don't care. Coaching, you keep that in coaching. Now, if I go ahead and put on my consulting hat at the same time, this is gonna look silly, number one. But number two, what also ends up happening, despite the fact that I just looked really smart with those books, kidding, is that you might end up doing a good job. Now, why is that a bad thing if you do a good job? Take, for example, you're a coach, you're also a therapist, and you have a glowing review from one of your client patients, and they say, man, I worked with this coach and they helped me through my generalized anxiety disorder. Oh, no. So because you have blurred the line, not only have you made your service unclear, your service that you're delivering to your client, but you've also made the entire practice of coaching unclear. So maintain that distinction. Whenever I'm in consulting mode, sure, some coaching tools, so to speak, may show up, but foundationally, I am there billed as a consultant. As a coach, consultant practices don't come about.
Wonderful.
That's it.
Jerome had a question.
I have a question.
Oh, Jen had a question. Sorry.
Yes. So for someone who is a therapist that is getting certified as a coach so they can offer both coaching and therapy, is there a recommendation for this specific person? Because we do have a lot of them that come through our program. And yeah.
Services separate.
First of all, sorry. Are you
answering?
Go ahead.
Sam, go. No, we talk a little.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So when it comes to therapy in particular, first things first, look at what your license says, because some licenses in some states also allow you to practice coaching while others do not. What those are, what states those are, I can't say. I don't know that for sure. But always lean toward the license first so you know what your scope of practice is as you progress into coaching. Something that I like to use to help distinguish the two for those who are confused is the analogy of -1, 0, 1. First of all, therapists can also tap into the present. Don't get me wrong on that one. But the therapists, those in the mental health field, can tap into the -1, meaning the past, to make sense of their 0, which is the present. Coaches, on the other hand, do not go into the -1. They start with the 0 to build towards that 1, which is their future. So -1, 0, 1. That's a pretty quick way to look at the differences between the two of them.
Yes, and I was thinking of an example with like plants or flowers, like and how, like, you know, if you have a garden, um, essentially, like, you have your rose bush, you have your daffodil bush. Both are flowers, but they're two different bushes, and that doesn't change. You're not going to cross pollinate them, but if you, a lot of times you can, the one way it can go is therapy can often use coaching. It does not go the other way, ever. Okay, so I think we can move to, yes, Lisa.
So I just want to add, if you're the therapist, you have so many modalities to utilize as your professional expression. Coaching is definitely one of them. The thing, if you start off in coaching and you're the therapist, we don't recommend going the other way, right? So coaching, you stay in the coaching world, you don't flip over to your therapist side of things. That's really a general idea. You refer out is really the best movement in that space.
And that brings us to our next one.
Wait, can I ask one more question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Would it be okay?
No.
Would it be okay for a therapist who is providing coaching services to a client to acknowledge at some point, there's more that we can do here, and it would be through therapy rather than coaching, and I can facilitate that because I am a therapist instead of referring out?
I have an ethical problem with that, but yeah.
I think that muddies up the waters. Really, in my opinion, you want to then come in as the therapist who have different modalities, right?
It feels like you're upselling yourself, like, to me, like, you know what I mean? It feels like, and it's where my ethical problem comes in, because now I'm like, I think you should need therapy, and I charge more for therapy. Like, there's a lot of like weird gray areas. So like, I've got you in the coaching seat, and now you need therapy, and regardless, though, you need a whole new contract, right? No matter what, we need a whole new agreement if we're switching spaces. So that's why you can't have do therapy in a coaching session, because you don't have an agreement that says I am your therapist and we are practicing therapy, right? If we go back to that agreement, if you are a therapist, there might be something in that agreement that says I use coaching tools, things like that, and that is more viable. But you're never going to see a coaching agreement that says I practice therapy, because we all know you need a license to do that. So that's we're trying to stay in this legal space, and then I have that ethical issue that if I'm saying you need an additional service for me to refer to myself, feels unethical to me.
It just doesn't feel right. It's really, like I said, it's just better to refer out from that space so that you keep the waters nice and clean.
We have to move to the next one because we got to get to competency 2 here. So we are moving on, and competency 2 is way more exciting than this one. So
let me say one more thing about competency 1 and 2. You have to pass them. You fail one, you don't pass. You fail both of them, you don't pass. These have to be honored. Okay, go ahead.
Last one, 107, refers clients to other support professionals as appropriate. We have an entire live about referring. There is one sheets and white papers about how to refer. ICF provides them. We could delve deeper into it, but we're not going to, because we have to go on to competencies 2. So you can find those resources. We'll include them. If anybody needs them, we can absolutely share them with you, and we'll put them in our chat as well. All right, core competency 2 embodies a coaching mindset. Whew. Updated.
So yeah, this one has been thoroughly updated with new sub-competencies, and the definition has been expanded. So,
and we have a limited amount of time to go over this, so we're going to have to move quickly through this. Embodies a coaching mindset, engages in ongoing personal and professional learning and development as a coach, works with coaching supervisors or mentor coaches as needed, develops and maintains a mindset that is open, curious, flexible, and client-centered. What is our primary differences, just so we know?
So
quickly?
It's not enough that you just have this mindset of being open and curious. It has to be engaged and directed some way. And in this situation, you are going into ongoing personal and professional learning and development. You're constantly growing as a coach. You're not just finding a spot that is comfortable for you and saying, okay, I'm not going to learn anymore. I'm done learning. I'm just going to be a coach. You have to keep evolving because the ICF and the core competencies and the ethics evolve as well.
I think and it's not just evolving, it's also, if you see this, like works with supervisors and mentor coaches as needed, it's holding yourself accountable in ways by using a third party source, and making sure that you are still coaching with as a coach and following these kind of rules, these competencies, and using outside sources to ensure that you are still doing that.
Let's dive into those sub-competencies.
Sub-competencies, here we come. Acknowledges that clients are responsible for their own choices.
That's glossary term for autonomy. That's another way to say that they are autonomous.
Which we touched on right away. Let's hop into 202. Engages in ongoing learning and development as a coach, including remaining aware of current coaching best practices and use of technology.
I love this one because it's a direct call against complacency once you get certified or credentialed.
Well, and the use of technology is becoming very prevalent in our coaching. So that's something that sometimes scares coaches, and it really shouldn't. We are not replaceable as humans connecting with other humans. It does and can enhance what we're capable of doing. Okay, done.
We do have a technology is defined.
As a glossary term, it's all the coaching platforms that you use, the apps for coaching, video conferencing, AI systems, things like that. So all of those tools that you use have to be ethical and comply with the core competencies too. You shouldn't use apps or technology that endangers your client's identity or personal information.
It's interesting. Well, it's almost though it's not even saying you have to use it, or it's saying engages in ongoing learning and development about use of technology. Well, aware of current coach and use of tech and being aware of current technology. So like they don't want you to be like archaic as a coach. They want you to be
stay relevant,
using the online tools and things like that.
Yep.
Yes. And there are coaches who stick strictly with in-person coaching and never actually need to use technology. Not to say that they shouldn't. I think everybody should. I would just say that one of the main areas of pushback are going to come from those coaches like, well, I don't do online coaching. Okay, dude.
We have to say, I think we have to become aware, like as we start to accept payments and things like that, it becomes important to understand point of sales and around that, confidentiality, protection, all of the things that we're making sure that your client is and their information is remaining safe. And so that's where this kind of awareness becomes important. So unless you're just accepting cash and checks, which that might be the case, we do have to have some knowledge of technology and the goods and the bads that come with it.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Develops an ongoing reflective practice to enhance one's coaching. I'll let you guys talk about that.
The development of, we've already kind of spoken into it in that sense where we're going to continue learning, growing, evolving with the practice. We are checking on things, especially when we're credentialed coach. We are required to keep a renewal going every 3 years, having certain amount of training, and expectations met. So that's just the continuation, I think, of manage yourself as a coach, keep yourself relevant, keep learning, growing in the coach field. Yeah, go ahead.
There's one word there that I think that's important to highlight, and the word is reflective. A reflective practice. So an ongoing reflective practice means you don't just end the coaching session and go, okay, cool, next. You sit down and you are asking yourself, was I coaching? Did I do a good job? This is where that mentor coaching comes in, where you're reviewing your sessions and ensuring that you are self-reflecting as a coach in what you were doing and all of that. Next, we have 204, remains aware of and open to the influence of biases, context, and culture on self and others. And we defined all three of those terms at the start of this.
All glossary terms.
So aware of and open to the influence of those things. And notice on self and others. So that means self and client and other people maybe in your client's life that maybe it's relevant as they're sharing to think of these things. And that's very important because we all have bias, every one of us. 205 uses awareness of self and one's intuition to benefit clients.
Yeah.
Sam?
I mean, just going back to my last example, the one we spoke about where, hey, you have something on your wall or the client has something on their wall. Maybe awareness of yourself and your belief is going to lead you to say, oh, maybe this is not the right fit. Or if you're actually into a coaching session, I don't know, what else could be on here? The awareness of myself and my client's beliefs might lead me to say, okay, no sunglasses on here. So understanding how you interact with your clients and how they interact with their environment, your environment, and all stuff that we already talked about.
I want to, as we move into 206 and 207, I'd like for us to hold comments until I read both, because they go hand in hand. So 206 develops and maintains the ability to manage one's emotions. And 207 is maintains emotional, physical, and mental well-being in preparation for, throughout, and following each session. So you probably would understand why I would put those two together, because they are like siblings.
Two peas in a pod. They changed from regulate one's emotions to manage one's emotions. It's an interesting choice. You wonder why he made that choice from regulate to manage.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Like, what is the difference? And I think it's in how we would define. Do we have either of those in our glossary of terms?
Yeah.
I honestly think both would have been best used here, but because the regulate is a term, we understand what that means. And then the managing of that regulation, makes sense to me. But why they changed it and not.
I suspect, and
Anthony
I could be wrong.
It's going to explode if we don't let him speak.
Oh, all right. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say that regulating sounds as if you can control your emotions.
Right.
It's like a valve on your emotions.
Yeah.
Don't let the emotions happen. You're regulating them. You're stopping.
It sounds
emotions.
repressive.
Yes.
Managing is the emotions are happening. You are making an intelligent decision what to do about those emotions.
Yep.
You're not stopping them or pushing them down. You're managing them and managing them appropriately and efficiently.
I think that is very well.
Also, the term itself, regulate your emotions, has become incredibly trendy on social media. People are using it in very interesting ways. And so I think they probably just wanted to get ahead of that. That's what I suspect.
All right. Next up, we have 208, seeks help from outside sources when necessary. And we've touched on that in a lot of ways. That's referring out, right? That is also getting a mentor coach. That is Also, getting more education, that's having a support system, that's reading books, that's all of those things, you know what I mean? Outside sources in many ways.
The next two are completely new. These are new, sub-competencies that go with competency number 2.
Brand new, woohoo! Nurtures openness, 209, or nurtures openness and curiosity in oneself, the client, and the coaching process. I love this.
Oh yeah. It's
So
like,
while we're coaching other people, these are all about us and who we are as the coach. Keep that in mind. We are asking you to be really familiar with who you are, how you do things, how things come up for you, and just to be really clear on how to manage your system on what's going here. What were you going to say, Sam?
I was going to say one of the biggest ways where I learned to cultivate more openness and curiosity in the coaching process was not just in my other certification programs I went through. When I went through mentoring from no credential to ACC and ACC to PCC, oh my gosh, I'm like, there's more. I don't know if I like it yet, but there's more. So just allowing yourself to be open to the fact that what you know about coaching can expand if you're open to that.
Well, I think that this is interesting because I think it allows us to explore things in ourselves that maybe we don't acknowledge or like or enjoy, but do so from a space that is open and curious. Like, I think those words are important because it says in oneself, the client, and the coaching process, because I think we have to come in and instead of coming in with all of the answers or knowing how we do everything and knowing how to, we come in, we're curious and open to whatever may be happening in the session, what might be happening with you as a coach, what might be happening with coaching in general and the process. And it allows this curiosity to come in and be present and be open so that we're able to change. But it's not like a non-judgmental, for me, it feels non-judgmental when we're approaching things from a curious and open place. All right, 210 and we are done. Last one, brand new, remains aware of the influence of one's thoughts and behaviors on the client and others.
So that's being aware of the things that come out of your mouth should not be influencing your client. So you are more mindful of saying less so that your client says more.
Yes, but I think it's also, you have to be aware that whatever you say will have an influence. You can't deny that. Like, you can't just expect that you come into a session and speak, and that speak doesn't have an influence or effect on your thoughts, your behaviors, and your clients' thoughts and behaviors. So you have to be aware of that and use that tool or use that awareness responsibly.
This goes deeper than speaking.
Yes.
Because it doesn't say speaking.
Yes.
It's
Thoughts
literally your thoughts and behaviors that are maybe before you even speak. It's your mindset inside and outside of coaching, and your behavior inside and outside of coaching. And if you are constant, and this could easily go into your own personal mental health. But if you're stuck, you are not taking care of yourself or your thoughts, it can later on influence the clients and your mindset towards the coaching session without even you being aware of it. You might think that you are a neutral third party. That's not the case. You are a subjective individual with your own experiences, your own insights, your own thoughts, and that is all being brought into the coaching session and influencing the session as well. So you want to make sure you are your best self and you're taking care of yourself holistically.
And you're aware that exists, right? like
Yeah.
that, this awareness, like you can't deny it. We're not autonomous in our coaching
Yeah.
session.
And this is why I always encourage coaches to work on that sense of curiosity outside of coaching, whether it's curiosity about yourself or about people that you think you know like the back of your hand, because that curiosity or lack of curiosity has that influence, like like what we've been talking about, from the inside out, like Anthony spoke about, which is why when you say certain things like, Brooke, tell me why you thought that, it's going to be a little bit more received than, Brooke, tell me why you thought that, if you're not
Well,
working on.
exactly. It is also, but this also, I think, is a call to nodding, right? It's a call to the nod, the smile, the affirmation that we accidentally do, or the oops judgment face, or maybe I'm tapping something and I'm not realizing that I'm, like there's a number of things that we can do that, I have to be aware that when I'm sitting in this coaching chair, what's going on up here can influence what's happening outside of here, even if I'm not speaking.
Absolutely. Don't be a bobblehead when you nod. That's like, yeah.
Or a grr.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's going to wrap up core competencies 1 and 2. We touched on a little bit of the glossary. We will go further into the glossary when we go over the next set of core competencies. I think I like that method a lot more than just citing it. And maybe I will have like a little sign that I can hold up that says glossary, new competency, updated competency, and we can stop there. But yeah, thank you guys for showing up and going over core competencies 1 and 2 for 2025. Next week, we are going over
3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in 1 or 2, I'm sure you'll just continue on to the next video for competencies 3 and 4. If you want to learn more about the core competencies, be sure to take our Coaching 101 and Coaching 102 classes so that you can not only learn them, but implement them in your coaching sessions and practice.
And mentoring really solidifies the process.
All right.
Yep, having
We'll
that
see you guys
oversight
next
is a big
week.
deal.